this Harry Enton who works for CNN. He's a pollster. And so I'll read his tweet here. It says, "This race is tight. Within 2 points in all 7 critical battlegrounds. Harris barely wins if the result matches the polls. But Trump crushes Harris and wins all the key states with a 2020-like poll miss. Harris, though, crushes Trump and wins all of them with a 2022-like poll miss." And I'm just thinking to myself, so basically here we are 50 or so days out, and you're saying that Harris could crush Trump or Trump could crush Harris, depending on if the polls are wrong in either direction, which they were in one way, 2016, and they were the other way in 2022. And look, I get it. It's not an exact science. But when I see stuff like that, sometimes I just wonder, and this is where I'm saying this laughingly, because I feel like you're a Nate Silver guy. I've kind of become an Alan Lichtman fanboy, so we can debate this. I do think there's something to the sports talk radio aspect of polling, and I'll throw it to you like this, because I was thinking about this. Think about prevailing narratives of this election. Go back 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, when it was essentially still a primary. Everyone, including Nikki Haley herself, said the first party to drop their 80-year-old wins. And everybody kind of agreed with that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So everyone basically agreed with that. The Democrats dropped their 80-year-old. I think it's also fair to say, I'll throw it to you, don't you think that Kamala has actually overperformed slightly her expectations? Because she was this kind of invisible VP. She had super low approval ratings. And now I think it's fair to say she's slightly overperformed her expectations. So if that was true 6 months ago, that the party that drops their 80-year-old wins, and then you have Kamala, who's just like kind of a blank candidate, right? She's just a normal candidate, but she's actually doing a little bit better. I'm not even trying to get into the fact that a lot of the economic numbers are improving. Inflation still sucks, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I just wonder if we'll look back and we'll say that the Democrats won this when Joe Biden dropped out and Kamala Harris just had a semblance of a normal campaign in comparison to Donald Trump, who to a lot of middle of the road people, looks kind of like a lunatic.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think that's a broad, big picture. That's a nice take on the race. I think the one critique I would have with what Haley said is it depends on how that candidate who steps in performs. Because, yes, subbing out Trump or Biden on either side automatically would help you if you had a candidate who was at least okay, if not better. What has happened with Harris is I think she's been better than a little bit above average. I think she's been really good, particularly the big moments. I mean, that debate was an ass whipping. I did not necessarily have that on my card, that I thought she'd be fine, but I didn't necessarily think, okay, she'll beat Trump badly in a debate, to the point where we've seen the polling change in the last few weeks. She also did great in her convention speech. Now, I've critiqued her before, and I think the one thing that could come back to haunt her is her lack of access of doing hostile or at least neutral media interviews. I still think that's the one thing holding back her campaign right now. And if she loses the election, I think we could look back and say that's the thing that costs her if they continue that strategy. But as of now, that's projecting for the future. As of now, her and her campaign, I think, they've been way better. Like, let's say you needed a C grade for the fill-in candidate to have an advantage if you replace Biden, and you needed at least a C or a C plus. I think they've been like A minus. So I think part of it is they've been good, really good. The other thing is that I think is important to remember is that we are in an era of extreme polarization, unlike even what we saw 20 years ago. I mentioned we're in a close election cycle or several cycles where we have all these close elections, but we are so polarized with the social media that people consume, the media silos, the algorithms, the AI now, the conspiracy theories, that it's so hard for either candidate to gain a decisive advantage, either party. So I just think the floor of both parties is so high that I generally agreed with Haley that if you subbed out a candidate and brought in someone who performed well, you'd be the favorite, but not necessarily dramatically.